This is Howling AM with your host, Michael Reddick. And tonight, we are going scorched earth on the silent killer that is eating the West from the inside out. I'm gonna call it what it is: liberalism, the antisocial mind virus. Yeah, you heard me. This ain't about politics anymore. It is a psychological and spiritual infection that turns healthy human beings into isolated, self-obsessed nodes who hate their own civilization, who hate their own biology, and they hate anyone who dares to suggest that life has duties as well as rights. I mean, just look around, folks. We have got record loneliness. Young men are checking out. Young women are on antidepressants. Churches are emptying while the therapy apps are booming. Birth rates in every liberal utopia are crashing below replacement. Communities are fracturing into tribes that are screaming at each other online instead of building anything of real value. And this virus, it tells them, that's progress. You do you. Now, quite frankly, the body count, it is everywhere if you just open your eyes to it. Gen Z, our youngest generation, is also the loneliest generation alive. 67 to 80% are reporting that they have felt lonely in the past year, nearly twice the rate of baby boomers. 1 in 5 teenagers aged 13 to 17 is drowning in it right now. 40% of high schoolers say that they live with a persistent sadness or hopelessness. 20% have seriously considered suicide in the last year alone. That is 20% of our children thinking of killing themselves. Meanwhile, the family unit, it is in the morgue. Roughly 40 to 50% of first marriages are still ending in divorce. Over 1.8 million divorces a year. Kids bounced between houses like luggage. And fertility, it's crashed to a record low. General fertility rates are down to 53.1 births per 1,000 women in 2025. Total fertility rate is hovering around 1.6 kids per woman, way below the 2.1 needed just to replace ourselves. This is a highway to extinction. The virus had promised freedom and self-expression. What it delivered instead is a generation of isolated, medicated, childless ghosts staring at screens, wondering why life feels so empty. This mind virus, it started small. Live and let live, they said. Tolerance, they preached. But tolerance was never the end game, no. It was just the Trojan horse. And let's be crystal clear where this anti-social mind virus actually comes from, folks. It didn't just pop up in the 60s hippie fog. No, this is straight out of the Frankfurt School. Those German neo-Marxists like Marcuse and Adorno, who fled to America and decided that the old class warfare playbook wasn't working on a prosperous West. So they flipped the script with Antonio Gramsci's cultural hegemony. Forget the factories, conquer the schools, conquer the media, conquer the churches, and conquer the family. Long march through the institutions is what they called it. Turn education into indoctrination. Turn entertainment into guilt porn. Turn patriotism into a dirty word. This is your Bezmenov's demoralization phase on steroids. That KGB defector laid it out decades ago. Flood the zone with moral relativism. Tear down objective truth. Make a whole generation unable to defend their own civilization, even when the evidence is screaming in their face. 15 to 20 years of poisoning the well, and now we are living in the results. It's not organic progress, no. It's engineered demoralization to soften a nation for the kill. And once that poison took hold, it hit the adults hardest. My body, my choice, but only when it's convenient. Hookup culture, it promised freedom. Instead, it delivered STDs, broken hearts, and a generation that cannot pair bond. No-fault divorce, it sounded compassionate. Instead, it shattered homes and left kids bouncing between houses, wondering, why does stability feel like oppression? And the welfare state? The virus's greatest trick. turn citizens into clients. Why build a strong family when the government will be your daddy, your provider, and your retirement plan? Let's call it for what it is, folks. It's a straight-up death cult. The numbers don't lie. In liberal strongholds and among the kids that they've infected, mental illness is off the charts. Depression, anxiety, the whole cocktail. LGBTQ plus youth are staring down 39% seriously considering suicide in the past year alone. For the trans and non-binary crowd, it's 46% considering suicide. 12% have actually attempted it. The drug use? 15% of these kids are hitting the illicit stuff, versus 8% of normal kids. STD rates are exploding in these communities because the virus, it turns sex into a disposable game instead of something sacred inside of marriage. The antisocial mind virus, it promises liberation. No rules, no guilt, no God. And it delivers broken minds, overdoses, and early graves instead. It doesn't heal, it isolates, and then it offers the needle or the bottle as the only way out. And nowhere is this death cult more demonic than in this transgender madness. Self-mutilation and castration hormones pumped into confused children. Boys getting their parts chopped off. Girls binding their chests flat or getting double mastectomies before they can even drive. Schools are indoctrinating little ones with storybooks and gender weeks while the cash review laid it bare. Massive spikes in referrals, especially teenage girls, many with prior trauma. In the trans-identifying youth, it is 73% reporting psychological abuse, 39% reporting physical abuse, and 19% reporting sexual abuse. Instead of therapy for the troubled and confused, we get the billion-dollar industry. Sex reassignment surgeries are already a multi-billion-dollar global business, with hormones raking in billions more in the US alone. Big Pharma and the surgeons, they cash in while the kids get a lifelong dependency on the state for their medical upkeep, for their infertility, and for their regret. They're not helping the broken, they're harvesting them for profit, and they're turning the schools into grooming factories. And they don't tell the kids, or even the parents, the nasty little secret about what comes after the knife. I'll tell ya, once they carve out that so-called neo-vagina from whatever skin they could steal, the body, it treats it like the open wound that it is, without constant painful dilation, which is shoving increasingly larger medical rods up there multiple times a day for the first year, then the rest of their damn life just to keep the hole from scarring shut and closing completely. I'm telling you, the whole thing, it shrinks, narrows, and seals up like it was never there. Lifelong maintenance, every week, every month. Or the hole, it closes up forever, and then they get to deal with the nightmare that is revision surgery. This isn't some liberated new body. This is a surgical wound that they have to keep forcibly open for the rest of their days, all while Big Pharma keeps selling the hormones and the regret piles up. Pure body horror sold as healthcare. And that right there, that is the rotten heart of it all. That this is antisocial at its core. It wages war on nature itself, on biology, on reality, on the created order, and it replaces it with a sterile, self-mutilating delusion that demands lifelong medical torture just to pretend it's real. Real human flourishing, it comes from connection. Marriage, kids, church, neighborhood, nation. The virus, it severs those bonds. It replaces them with the state and the self. Suddenly, having children is climate violence. Defending your borders is hate. Saying men aren't women is violence. And when the broken, lonely souls start asking for an exit ramp because life feels too hard, the same virus that created the misery, it offers MAID as the compassionate solution. That is medical assistance in dying. You're a burden? Here's the needle. Don't worry, society understands. Just kill yourself. And don't think for 1 second that this is all accidental, folks. The elites pushing this mind virus, they know exactly what they are doing. The same globalist crowd at Davos, the UN, and the billionaire foundations, they want a weak, divided, low-trust population because it's easier to manage and it's cheaper to rule. Bill Gates and his crowd have been open about it for years. Better vaccines, healthcare, and reproductive services to slow population growth in the name of saving the planet. They don't need strong families pumping out rooted, confident kids who love their country. They need dependent consumers hooked on the stake, chasing endless identity fixes, and who are too broken to push back when the borders open wide and the culture gets replaced. Atomized people don't form militias or tight-knit communities that resist tyranny. They just scroll, consume, and beg for more government solutions. This isn't compassion. It's social engineering for control. A mind virus that doesn't stop at breaking hearts and bodies. It's engineering demographic suicide. While native birth rates collapse below replacement and our own kids are too depressed or mutilated by hormones and surgeries to have families, the same liberals scream for open borders and mass immigration without assimilation. That's replacement, not replenishment. They shame any talk of preserving Western culture as racist while flooding the zone with people who don't share our values, don't share our faith, and don't share our history. The virus, it turns fertile young people into lifelong medical patients, and then it imports the replacement population to fill the void. That's not progress. That's conquest by needle, ballot box, and guilt trip. And if you dare speak out against any of it, the virus shows its fangs. Teachers are fired or sued for refusing to lie to children about pronouns or biology. Some winning big settlements after years of hell, but the message is clear: comply or be destroyed. Doctors lose licenses. Parents get investigated by child services or even lose custody for saying no to the chemicals. Pastures get labeled as hate groups. Schools hide transitions from moms and dads and then punish the whistleblowers. The antisocial mind virus, it doesn't debate, it cancels, it deplatforms, it ruins careers and it ruins families. That's how you know it's a cult. Question the dogma and they come for you with the full force of the state and the mob. And who the hell is even benefiting from a whole population hooked on this mind virus, you may be wondering? Well, follow the money and follow the power, brothers and sisters. Financially, Big Pharma and their surgery racket are pulling it in. Gender reassignment surgery is already a multi-billion-dollar global industry that is exploding towards $7.5 billion by 2033. Hormones pulling in billions more every year in the US alone. Therapists, DEI consultants, big tech censors, and the whole grievance industrial complex get fat off the confusion and the lifelong medical dependency that they create. Politically, who benefits? The globalist elites, the World Economic Forum crowd, UN bureaucrats, the Davos set, the left-wing political machines. They all love it. An isolated, self-hating, low-trust population is easier to rule over. No strong families, no national pride, no God. Just lonely consumers dependent on the state for everything. More welfare clients, more compliant voters, more cheap labor from unchecked borders. They don't want strong-rooted people who build civilizations. No, they want weak, guilty, divided serfs who beg for more government and never notice who's really pulling the strings. And the sickest part of it all? This virus, it teaches us to be ashamed of our own culture and history. National pride, that's racist. Love your Western heritage, love your founding fathers, your Judeo-Christian roots. You have passion for your ancestors who built the greatest civilization in history. Well, guess what? You're a bigot who needs to be decolonized and erased. Your statues toppled, your holidays canceled, your history rewritten as one long oppression narrative, while they get to celebrate every other culture's pride as diversity. It's a deliberate demoralization campaign to destroy a nation's people from the inside, to make you hate yourself so that you won't fight back when they replace you. And here's the tell, folks. You don't see this suicide cult in non-Western nations. In China, they crush the woke nonsense and they hammer national pride into their kids. Russia? Well, Putin mocks it as Western degeneracy, and instead he pushes traditional family values. The Middle East, India, Eastern Europe, they celebrate their history. They guard their borders and they tell their people to be proud of who they are. Only the West is stupid enough to import the mind virus that's actively trying to erase it. That's not a coincidence. That is conquest without firing a single shot. But hear me loud and clear, brothers and sisters. Hear me loud and clear. This death cult, it has an antidote, and it is written in the pages of the book that built the West. Genesis 1:28. Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it. God, He didn't command us to sterilize ourselves, to shame our heritage, or celebrate self-mutilation. He said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. We are to have children, we are to build homes, and we are to make this earth our own. We were made for connection, for legacy, for strong families and proud nations that honor the God who formed us. The antisocial mind virus, it is a rebellion against that divine order. You must reject it. You must return to faith, to responsibility, to ordered liberty rooted in truth. Teach your kids real history instead of guilt. Defend marriage, defend biological reality. Rebuild the immune system of Western civilization before the virus finishes its work. Now, it's time to stand up and fight like men and women who still believe in something eternal. So shake off the virus, talk to your children, strengthen your marriage, rebuild your community. Vote like your civilization depends on it, because it does. Share this rant. The metal is screaming the warning. This is Howling AM. I am Michael Reddick. Reject the mind virus and choose life.